While the blood of more than 100 souls still soaks the earth at Mountain Meadows, Hannah Elizabeth and Emma Bocock roll into Salt Lake City, September 12th, just one day after the massacre. Their wagon circles with the others on the public square, dust settling around weary wheels and oxen. But today, there's tension in the air. No warm suppers await them under soft lantern glow. No marching brass band. The city is in a crisis. Martial law grips the streets. The Reformation is their welcome. Bishop interviews come fast. Questions about tithing, loyalty, and obedience. 500 miles east on the Sweetwater, the main army column lingers. Orders stalled as autumn turns to winter. Welcome back to Zion's Fire, an American saga of pioneer hopes tangled in polygamous knots, theocracy and resistance, as federal troops ride straight into the powder keg. Join me, Debbie Pedersen, as we follow the Bocock sisters. This is episode 5, Zion Unmasked. The first days. The Bocock sisters have crossed an ocean and the plains, nearly 6 months without ever sleeping in a house or bed. The local saints hail the wagon trains coming, while a small band plays Home Sweet Home. How their weary souls respond to that song. They've reached their goal, worn and hungry, with nothing but the strength of a mighty purpose to support them. Many reunite with family already in the valley, but for the Bocock sisters, there is no family or former acquaintances to greet them. The very next day, Sunday, September 13th, around 2 o'clock, another company staggers in. Charles Law, the Yorkshire tea merchant who converted the Bocock sisters in Sheffield, arrives with the Christian Christensen Handcart Company. Their journey has been brutal. Intense heat followed by chilling rains, winds, injuries, and death. Muddy roads that swallowed wagon wheels, and rivers treacherous. The mile-wide loop fork full of quicksand. Handcarts broke daily. Feet swelled and bled from their inadequate shoes. Their diet, mostly flour and water, with rare meat from a hunted buffalo, a squirrel, or a lame ox bartered from Johnston's passing army. 15 souls from the handcart company were buried along the way. Finally, they crested Little Mountain in Immigration Canyon and view the valley for the first time. They march into the city, Danish flag flying from the lead handcart. Ragged but joyful as their eyes rest upon the place they had longingly spoke about for so many days. Exhausted, Charles stands alone in the dust of Immigration Square. Joy and grief, jumbled emotions engulf him, having left Maria and his 2 little daughters in England. Within days, most are dispersed from their final camping place, finding temporary shelter and hospitality among the saints in Zion. Work assignments are made shortly upon arrival. The U.S. Army. Colonel Edmund B. Alexander's main columns are camped just 12 miles southwest of South Pass, Wyoming, the gateway to Utah, still waiting for orders, wagons, and winter supplies that never seem to arrive. Mormon militia raiders strike almost nightly. They set fire to the prairie grass, stampede livestock, and burn isolated supply wagons. One raid nearly succeeds in driving off the army's mules, only stopped when the lead bale mare tangles her rope in sagebrush. A few tense letters pass between Colonel Alexander and Brigham Young. Brigham offers a cold bargain. The troops may winter at Ham's Fork in Wyoming if they surrender their arms and promise to leave in the spring. Alexander refuses. The army will not disarm. The days preceding the lockdown. The very day of Charles' arrival, Brigham Young preaches in the tabernacle. Come on with your thousands of illegally ordered troops, and I promise you, in the name of Israel's God, that you shall melt away as the snow before a July sun. God Almighty being my helper, they cannot come here. Before I will suffer what I have in times gone by, there shall not be one building, nor 1 foot of lumber, nor a stick, nor a tree, nor a particle of grass and hay that will burn, left in reach of our enemies. I am sworn, if driven to extremity, to utterly lay waste in the name of Israel's God. The real, actual treason is committed in Washington by the administrators of our government sending an army to take the lives of innocent citizens. Yes, an army must be sent to drive us from the earth. The chase across the desert. The 3 desperate souls who slipped out under the cover of darkness during the Mountain Meadows massacre were herders for the wagon train, unnamed and forgotten by history. They carried the only chance the immigrants had of exposing what happened. The Mormon militia discovered their escape almost immediately after the killings. Militia riders, including some who had taken part in the massacre, were sent hard on their trail across the blistering desert toward the California road. The first man didn't get far, maybe 50 or 60 miles, when his pursuers caught him. He dropped to his knees and begged for his life. They stoned him to death, then tied his body to a horse and dragged it through the sagebrush until it was unrecognizable. The second pushed farther, all the way to the muddy river. Exhausted and dying of thirst, he accepted food and water from a Mormon tracker who pretended sympathy, only to take a bullet in the back of the head while he ate. Years later, Jacob Hamlin would ride past the spot and see the man's bleached bones beside a cold campfire. The third man made it the farthest, nearly to the springs at Las Vegas. Parched and collapsing, he drank from a canteen offered by his pursuer, poured out his story of the massacre, and was shot through the heart for his trouble. By late September, all 3 are dead, their bodies scattered across the desert. Living under martial law, Salt Lake City is a fortress preparing for siege. Streets are quieter, stores ration flour. The Nauvoo Legion patrols ride the ridges day and night. Every sermon ends the same way. The Lord demands total consecration in this hour. Nothing less will save Zion. Wagons stand half loaded with furniture and seed grain, preparing to move south if needed. The saints engage actively in accelerating the military preparations. Women busily stitch bullet pouches instead of quilts, cast ammunition, and stockpile food for a prolonged standoff or evacuation. The city is the command hub for scouting parties monitoring and harassing the U.S. Army. New immigrants are immediately put to work harvesting crops to cash against the coming siege. The pressure builds. Charles had promised Hannah and Elizabeth, "I will take care of you in Zion." Within days, the ward bishop calls Hannah, Elizabeth, and Emma in for loving counsel. An emphasis is placed on obedience, blessings for their faithfulness, and warnings of spiritual consequences for any disobedience. The questions are gentle at first. Have you kept the word of wisdom on the trail? Do you sustain Brigham Young as prophet? Then sharper. Are you willing to obey counsel in all things, even when you do not understand it? Night after night, ward teachers visit the tents still remaining on the square. The message is always the same, spoken softly but unmistakably. Plural marriage is the highest law. Those who obey will be exalted. Those who refuse risk their standing in the kingdom. Single immigrant women are watched closely. Bishops keep lists. Refusal of worthy counsel means no tithing assistance, no housing, no place in the community. Charles is counseled privately. You brought these sisters to Zion. Will you fulfill your promise? Hannah is counseled separately. You have no family here. Will you accept the protection the Lord offers? They obediently listen. Their fate is set. September 29th. John D. Lee rides into Salt Lake City from the south. He meets privately with Brigham Young. What is said behind closed doors will never be fully known. But Lee leaves the Lion House and rides out again that same day. The city whispers, but no one speaks openly. September 30th. Charles and Hannah arrive at the Endowment House, a modest 2-story adobe structure on Temple Square, dedicated 2 years earlier. First, they receive their own endowment, then walk upstairs to the veiled-off ceiling room where Elizabeth and Emma, dressed in white, sit waiting. In the center of the room is a padded altar where Charles and Hannah kneel on opposite sides, facing each other. Here, their sealing ceremony is performed. Then they stand, looking into the mirrors on either side of the wall, gazing at eternity. Hannah, 26 years old, 18 days in Zion, marries 25-year-old Charles Law, already married, the missionary who converted her and her sisters to the Mormon faith in Sheffield, England. Sheffield, England now seems a world and an entire lifetime away. Conclusion. By the end of September, Salt Lake City remains on high alert, with the Army standoff unresolved and winter approaching. For Hannah, 18 days in Zion has taken everything she has left to give, and the price for the sisters is just beginning. 300 miles south, the massacre spared 17 children, all under 7, many wounded, still wearing their parents' blood. They are loaded into a wagon and driven to Jacob Hamlin's ranch, not far away. Jacob himself was in Salt Lake City, marrying his third wife on the very day of the killings. It was his second wife, Rachel, left alone on the isolated ranch, who opened the door to them that night. She took them in, washed the blood from their faces as best she could, and tried to quiet their crying for mothers and fathers who would never come. This is Zion's Fire, Episode 5, Zion Unmasked. Elizabeth Bocock is my husband's great-great-grandmother. If you're enjoying this series about the Bocock sisters, please hit subscribe and the bell so you don't miss an episode. Post show notes and a look at Episode 6 are coming right up. Don't move. Welcome back to the post show notes for Episode 5. Why did Hannah and Charles agree to marry when they barely knew each other and he was already married? Why did Hannah, 18 days off the trail, exhausted, kneel in the Endowment house on September 30th and be sealed for eternity to Charles, a man she hardly knows, who already had a wife and children in England? The answer is in the white-hot pressure of the Mormon Reformation in 1857. New immigrants like Hannah and Charles were told over and over in sermons, bishop interviews, and nightly ward meetings that a temple sealing wasn't optional, meaning it was the only path to the highest degree of heaven, the celestial kingdom, where families would be bound forever and become like God. Reject it, they were told, and you would remain a mere angel in the afterlife, never to have eternal increase, never to become a god. Doctrine and Covenants 132 spelled it out in black and white. Those who turned away from plural marriage would be damned. The war hysteria sweeping the territory, an army marching in, martial law declared, and sermons promising the end was near, the message became urgent. Seal yourselves now before the destroyer comes. Bind your families eternally while there's still time. And for the orphaned sisters, sealing themselves to their parents was one of the main reasons that they came to Zion. For Hannah, if she refused, well, it was pretty simple. There's no protection, no housing, and no standing in the community. And being in good standing was crucial for receiving support. There's no going back to England in the fall of 1857. Winter's coming, travel's restricted, and the sisters' funds are depleted. Really, there's no going back at all. A woman in Utah, 1857, had to be in good standing in the church to survive. All immigrants, especially women, were heavily dependent on the church for their initial support. Historical accounts emphasize people saying that once in Utah, there was no going back. For Charles, already separated from his wife Maria and basically disowned by his family, it meant proving his faithfulness after abandoning his wife and children for the gospel. Plural marriage was a divine commandment taught in the 1850s, and it was peaking right at the time when they got there, 1856 and 1857. The church leaders definitely counseled men to take plural wives and even assigned some men to enter into plural marriage. But for men, refusal did not necessarily result in the same level of ostracism or loss of aid. Men had more opportunities for self-survival through physical labor. Okay, Charles and Hannah were not in love. They weren't even close friends. But in the fervor of 1857, obedience felt like survival, spiritual and physical. So 18 days after stepping off the wagon, Hannah and Charles said yes. Rachel Hamlin and the children. Rachel was the second wife of Jacob Hamlin. She was born in New York and raised in Illinois. Her parents were early Mormon converts, and her family endured significant hardships during a lot of the early Mormon persecutions. So when the children came into Rachel's care, she kept the three little Dunlap sisters together at her home. Rebecca Jane, 6, Louisa Kelly, 4, and Sarah Elizabeth, 1. Sarah, the 1-year-old, had been shot in the arm, suffering a severe wound that left her disabled. And later, she developed an eye infection that led to blindness, despite Rachel's devoted care for her. Rebecca, the oldest, recalled Rachel's kindness, but also the traumatic memories of the ranch, including seeing blood-stained clothing from the victims there. After leaving Rachel's care, the children were placed in Mormon families scattered among different southern settlements. The children were told to call their new guardians mother and father. Some were treated kindly, some were not. Their fates tied to the cover-up that is just beginning. What's next in episode 6? The army inches closer. Zion's walls hold for now. Hannah settles into her new reality, and Charles now has 2 wives, one abandoned in England, and Hannah, who he hardly knows. Emma and Elizabeth face their own crossroads. Whispers of mountain meadows spread, and a cover-up tightens its grip. Will the sisters find peace in the promised land, or will the flames of resistance consume them? See you on the trail.